What's the best dividend stock to buy? Is it Verizon, AT&T, Intel, or Ford? I'm going to compare these four stocks and answer which one is the best dividend stock to buy in this video. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to look at is their dividend yields, and looking at this metric, Verizon has the highest at 7%. Next is AT&T at 6%. Intel shows a 5.42% dividend yield, but that's a bit misleading because Intel recently slashed its dividend closer to, which will bring it closer to a 2% yield. And the next one is Ford, which has a 4.57% dividend yield. The next thing I wanted to look at is these companies' revenue growth, and going all the way back to 2014, we see that most recently Ford is experiencing the most robust revenue growth at 16.78%, and Intel is the most negative at 31.6%. In the middle here, we have AT&T at 0.8% and Verizon at 3.48%. Longer term, I suspect that Intel will have the highest revenue growth over the next decade. However, over the next year or two, it's going to be pressured because of the elevated inventories in the system right now. And I suspect Ford's revenue growth to come down to the low single digits as the car industry normalizes over the next couple of years and supply chain shortages ease. Similarly with AT&T and Verizon, low single digit revenue growth is what I would expect longer term from these wireless telecommunications companies. The next metric I wanted to look at is the operating profit margin over the trailing 12 months. And again, going back to 2014. And what I notice is that for the most of the decade, Intel had the best operating profit margins until recently, when the elevated inventory levels and collapsing revenue has brought its operating margins down to just 3.7%. And looking at it that way, that raised Verizon to first place among these four in the operating profit margin at 22.27%, and pretty consistent all the way back to 2016, although there was some volatility before then. And then we have AT&T with similar trends as with Verizon, but coming behind Verizon at about 500 basis points lower of 17.82%, and then finally Ford at just 8.08% for its operating profit margin. So right now and over the next couple of years, I suspect Verizon to have the best operating profit margins. Maybe later on in the decade, Intel will recover the lead, but I don't suspect that to happen until 2025, 2026 at the earliest. One of the reasons for that is because consumers bought computers in abundance in 2020 and 2021, because when we were working from home, it no longer sufficed to have one computer in the household, right? If you were all working from home and learning from home, you needed multiple computers for the household, right? One for each member of the household instead of one for each household. So now people have all of these computers that they're not needing to buy any new computers. So they didn't need to buy any new computers last year. This year again, the consumer demand for new computers will be low, and it'll be low again in 2024, and it'll only start to recover in 2025 and 2026, because typically the age for a computer refresh, according to Intel, is between 5 to 6 years. So those computers that were purchased in 2020 will need to start being replaced sometime in 2025. So that's when Intel will experience a big boost in sales, because a big group of consumers bought computers in 2020. Those will all need to get upgraded, and that's going to be a big tailwind for Intel, but that's not going to start until 2025, 2026. So you're looking at a few years until then, until Intel can recover the top line growth. The next metric I wanted to look at is cash flow from operations to sales for the trailing 12 months. This measures how good a company is at turning sales into cash flow from operations. It's one of the more important metrics that I personally look for in a company, and the higher the better. And looking at this metric, again, Verizon in the lead at 27%, AT&T coming back at 24 and an eighth, 24.8, Intel right up there at 24.48, and Ford coming in last place at just 4.34%. Again, if you've been following my channel, I've been saying how much I dislike the auto industry and investing in any of the stocks in the auto industry. That includes both the electric vehicles like Tesla, NIO, Rivian, Lucid, and all of those, and the legacy automakers like Ford, GM, and the others. It's just not an industry that I like because of the massive capital investments that's required in building cars. It's so expensive to build and manufacture cars, and the profit margins are so thin because competition is so fierce. They're all, when these supply chain shortages ease, they're all going to be in competition again to make these sales. You're going to start to see these big discounts again, big discounts to MSRP. Sales are going to fall, margins are going to fall, and it's just, I truly dislike this industry. That's just me personally, okay? You may feel differently, but I'm not a fan of investing in the car industry. And finally, I wanted to compare these four dividend stocks across their valuation, looking at the forward price to earnings ratio, and looking at this metric. AT&T and Verizon are similarly valued at a forward PE of 7.47 and 7.9794. Intel is the most expensive at a forward PE of 51, and then Ford is also at the levels of AT&T and Verizon at a forward price to earnings of 7.467. Okay, finally time to make a decision. Which one of these four stocks is the best dividend stock to buy? I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now. I'm saying Verizon is the best dividend stock to buy out of these four right now. It's got the highest operating margin. It's got the highest cash flow from operations to sales. Revenue growth, not the highest, but solid at low single digits, and a reasonable valuation along with AT&T and Ford. So that's the one that I would go with personally. I would choose Verizon stock as the best dividend stock to buy out of these four. All right, that's all I've got for this video. As always, I truly appreciate your viewership. And if you like this video, I'm going to add a few videos at the end of this one that I think you'll enjoy. So please click on one of those, and I'll see you over there.